A hopeful turnaround. The dark void of space stretched endlessly outside the space station, a silent reminder of the high stakes surrounding the peace talks. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy gathered, each representing their species in what could be the final moments of human existence. On the table in front of them, holographic projections flickered, showing the advanced alien fleet positioned just outside Earth's orbit, waiting for the signal to either conquer or make peace. Humanity's leaders sat on edge, their faces drawn with the weight of the moment. Captain Lena, Earth's representative, stood tall in the center of the room, her eyes narrowed in determination. She had been through countless battles, but this was different. The alien forces were demanding that humanity surrender its autonomy or face total destruction. They were relentless, confident, and arrogant, as if they had already decided humanity's fate. Enough talk. One of the alien representatives, a towering figure with a cold, metallic voice, declared, "You humans must choose. Submit to our rule or face extinction. There is no middle ground." A murmur rippled through the human delegation. Some of the leaders looked down, shame in their eyes, unable to make a decision. Others, like the powerful General Stroud, clenched their fists, his mind racing with ideas for rebellion. Captain Lena knew the danger. They had been backed into a corner. "We will never surrender." Lena spoke up, her voice steady and strong. Her words echoed in the quiet room, and all eyes turned to her. "We will fight. This is not just about survival. It's about our freedom." But as she spoke, Lena's mind was filled with doubts. The odds were stacked against them. The alien fleet was massive, well-armed, and highly organized. The humans were outmatched, outnumbered, and their resources were stretched thin after years of fighting off smaller threats. Their best technology still felt inadequate in comparison to what the aliens had on offer. And yet, deep inside her, a spark of hope flickered. It was not over. Not yet. Just as the alien ambassador stepped forward to make his final demand, something unexpected happened. The communications officer, stationed at the back of the room, suddenly shouted out, "Captain, we're receiving an unexpected transmission. It's from Earth. A military ship reports that they've just launched a new weapon. Something they say could change the course of this war." Lena's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure if this was real or some sort of desperate ploy. She could hear the hushed conversations behind her as everyone turned to face the officer. The room had fallen silent once more. The alien representative raised an eyebrow, sensing the change in mood, but said nothing. "Patch it through," Lena ordered, her voice resolute. She watched as a hologram appeared above the table, showing a human fleet leader, Admiral Erickson, an experienced officer known for his brilliance in battle. His face was grim. "Captain," Admiral Erickson said, his voice crackling through the transmission, "we've just deployed the prototype of the new energy weapon. It's a type of energy conversion system that harnesses power from our own star. It can amplify the strength of our weapons beyond anything we've ever seen before. I can't say exactly how it will work, but we're hopeful. It might just be our last chance." Lena's mind raced. Could this be the turning point they needed? She quickly weighed the risks. The weapon might be their salvation or their doom. If it failed, the human fleet could be destroyed before it even had a chance to deploy. But if it worked— "Thank you, Admiral," Lena said, nodding with newfound hope. She turned back to the alien representatives. "It seems humanity is not as helpless as you thought. We still have one more card to play." The alien ambassador's expression remained unreadable, but a flicker of uncertainty flashed in his eyes. "You are grasping at straws, Captain. Your so-called weapon will not save you." But Lena wasn't listening anymore. She was already planning her next move. She knew the weapon was their best chance, but it would require a well-coordinated attack. Time was running out. The alien fleet was waiting for a response, any response. They would either see humanity as a broken species begging for mercy, or they would witness the first glimmer of resistance in what had been a one-sided war. She turned to General Stroud, who had been silently watching. His face was full of grim determination. "Prepare the fleet," she ordered. "We launch as soon as we get confirmation that the weapon is ready. We'll make them regret underestimating us." The room fell into a tense silence, and Captain Lena stood taller than ever. Hope had returned, in the form of a weapon that might just turn the tide. But this was only the beginning. The next few hours would determine humanity's fate. With the power of their new weapon and the will to fight back, the human forces stood at the precipice of war, ready to show the galaxy that they would not go quietly into the night. This was only the start of humanity's greatest test, and they were prepared to face it head-on. The alien ultimatum. Captain Lena's heart raced as she listened to Admiral Erickson's voice fade from the communication. The weight of the moment settled over her like a heavy cloak. They had a weapon, an uncertain weapon, but a weapon nonetheless. She had to make this count. The room was tense as Lena turned back to the alien representatives, who were standing silently. The lead alien, a tall being with scales like polished silver, stepped forward. His eyes, glowing a dim, unnatural blue, fixed on her. His voice was low and laced with malice. "You humans continue to defy us. You think that one weapon will turn the tide of a war you cannot win." His words were sharp and full of disdain. "Your resistance is futile. Surrender now, or we will take the planet by force. No more empty threats. This is your final warning." Lena felt the anger rise within her. Her species had fought for centuries for survival, against enemies, against hunger, against extinction. And now, when the whole galaxy seemed to believe they were nothing but prey, they were still standing. She could feel the fire of defiance burning within her. The alien ambassador had no idea what humans were capable of. "We will not surrender," Lena declared, her voice firm. "Humanity will never bow to threats. You want Earth. You'll have to take it by force." The alien ambassador's expression faltered for a moment. For a split second, his gaze turned to the side, as if receiving an internal communication. Then, with a sharp gesture, he signaled his fellow delegates. "You have made your choice," he said coldly. "Prepare yourselves for the consequences. The destruction of your world will be on your hands." The meeting room grew deathly silent. Lena could feel the weight of the decision they had made. The negotiation was over, and the war had officially begun. But as the aliens turned to leave, she couldn't help but wonder if humanity had just stepped into a battle they had no hope of winning. Turning to General Stroud, Lena saw a mix of fear and determination in his eyes. "We're going to need more than just that weapon," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "The aliens have technology we can't even begin to understand. One weapon might not be enough." Lena nodded, her mind already racing. "We don't have the luxury of second chances. We need to prepare for the worst. Get the fleet ready. I want every soldier on alert." "Understood, Captain," Stroud replied, his voice steady. He turned to bark orders to the rest of the crew, and the tension in the room grew palpable. The fight for Earth was no longer a possibility. It was now an unavoidable reality. Back in the control room, the space station buzzed with activity. Lena and her team were working around the clock to deploy the new weapon, but something didn't sit right with her. The weapon was powerful, but could it truly defeat an alien race so much more advanced than humanity? They were the underdogs, and the weight of that fact pressed heavily on her shoulders. Yet there was no turning back now. Suddenly, the calm was shattered by a loud alarm. "Alert! Alien fleet has mobilized. They are moving toward Earth." The voice of the communications officer cut through the tension like a knife. "Captain, they're preparing to launch their first wave of attacks. We don't have much time." Lena's breath caught in her chest. This was it, the moment of truth. The weapon was humanity's last hope. But would it work? Could it turn the tide? "We're not waiting to find out," Lena said, her voice sharp with authority. "Activate the weapon, and get the fleet into position. "We fight now, or we perish." Stroud gave a sharp nod, and within moments, the orders were carried out. The human fleet, a mix of warships and fighters, took their positions. The energy weapon was primed, ready to unleash its full potential. Lena stood in front of the command console, her eyes fixed on the tactical display as the alien fleet loomed closer. She knew this was a desperate gamble, but it was all they had. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3. Lena gripped the edge of the table, her pulse pounding in her ears. 2, 1. And then, the weapon fired. A blinding beam of energy shot out from the human fleet, directed straight at the oncoming alien forces. For a moment, it seemed like nothing had happened, until the beam collided with the lead alien ship. The explosion was massive. The ship shattered into pieces, disintegrating in the blink of an eye. The shockwave rippled through space, throwing nearby ships off course. The alien fleet had been thrown into disarray. The human fleet watched in awe as the impossible happened. But even as the humans celebrated their unexpected victory, Lena knew this was only the beginning. The aliens wouldn't give up so easily. If anything, they would be more determined now, more vicious. But for the first time since the negotiations began, Lena felt a flicker of hope. Humanity had just shown the universe that they were not to be underestimated. "Prepare for the next wave," she said, her voice cold but steady. "The real fight is just beginning." And so, the battle raged on, with humanity's fate hanging in the balance. Would the weapon work again? Could they hold their ground against an enemy so much more powerful? Only time would tell. But one thing was clear. Humanity was no longer the prey. They had become the hunters. A shocking betrayal. The initial wave of attacks from the alien fleet had been repelled. Humanity had scored an unexpected victory, and the morale among the fleet was higher than it had been in weeks. For the first time, the aliens seemed unsure of their next move. Captain Lena stood at the helm of the command ship, watching the status of their forces with cautious optimism. But that optimism quickly began to fade as the communications officer's voice broke through the tense silence. "Captain, we're receiving an encrypted transmission from Earth," the officer said, a strange unease in her voice. "It's from General Hargrave. He insists it's urgent." Lena's heart skipped. General Hargrave was a senior military leader and one of the most respected figures in Earth's defense, but something about the transmission didn't feel right. She ordered it to be patched through, hoping it was nothing more than a routine update. As the transmission came through, the face of General Hargrave appeared on the screen. His expression was grim, but it was the look in his eyes that sent a chill down Lena's spine. There was something hidden there, something he wasn't saying. "Captain Lena," Hargrave said, his voice steady but tight. "I just learned something. Something very disturbing. It's about the weapon you just used. The new energy weapon. It's not as humanity's scientists say. It's not of our making." Lena's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Her voice was low, as if speaking louder would make the news even worse. Hargrave's expression grew even more serious. "It was developed with the help of an unknown ally, someone you need to be careful of. We had no choice but to make a deal. An arrangement to ensure our survival." Lena's stomach dropped. She had heard whispers of secret alliances, but she had dismissed them as rumors. Now, the truth was unfolding in front of her, and she felt a cold sweat break over her. "Who helped us, and why wasn't I informed?" Hargrave hesitated, glancing away as if he couldn't bear to say the words. Finally, he spoke. "The arrangement was with the Arcturians. They've been watching us for years, waiting for the right moment. We agreed to their terms, and they gave us the technology, but they expect something in return." The room seemed to tilt around Lena. The Arcturians, a highly advanced but secretive alien race known for their ruthless and calculating ways. The very same race that had conquered several peaceful civilizations across the galaxy. The same race that had shown no mercy to anyone who had opposed them. "You made a deal with the Arcturians." Lena's voice was almost a whisper, a mix of disbelief and anger. And you didn't tell me. You didn't tell any of us. Hargrave's eyes were filled with regret. There wasn't time. We had no choice. The Arcturians gave us the weapon, but they want a piece of Earth in return. They want control over our resources, our population, everything. I was hoping we could keep them at bay after the war, but the words hung in the air like a suffocating fog. Lena's mind raced. This was far worse than she had imagined. They hadn't just made an ally. They had made a deal with one of the galaxy's most dangerous species, a species that wouldn't let them walk away freely after the war was won. The weapon that had just helped them win a battle, that had given them hope, had been a trap, a bargaining chip for the Arcturians to lay claim to Earth's future. How long have you known about this? Lena demanded, her voice shaking with anger now. How long have you been planning this behind our backs? Hargrave's silence was answer enough. He had known for longer than he had let on. But why had he kept it from her? Why had he kept it from the rest of the human military? It didn't make sense. Before Hargrave could respond, another voice interrupted the transmission. It was the voice of another officer, someone Lena didn't recognize. Captain, you need to hear this, the officer said urgently. We've just intercepted another transmission. This one is from the Arcturians. They've already moved a fleet into our solar system. They're demanding immediate control of Earth. They know about the weapon we've just used, and they want their payment now. Lena's pulse quickened. She turned to General Stroud, who had been listening to the conversation quietly from across the room. His face was pale, his jaw tight. What do we do? Stroud asked, though the answer was already becoming clear. They were being played from both sides. The Arcturians weren't interested in helping humanity. They had used them, manipulated them, and now they were here to claim what they had been promised. We don't have a choice, Lena said, her voice cold and full of resolve. We fight them. Stroud's expression was grim. But Captain, they'll destroy us if we do. Then we die trying, Lena replied firmly. Humanity will not be enslaved again. Not by the aliens, not by the Arcturians, and not by anyone. The room fell into a heavy silence. Everyone knew that they were in a dangerous position now. They had just alienated the very allies they had relied on, and now they were facing the full force of a ruthless species. But there was no turning back. Humanity had already stepped into the ring. Now, they would fight, not just for survival, but for their freedom, even if it meant taking on a power that no one had ever dared to challenge. The decision to fight. Captain Lena stood in the command center, the weight of the new reality pressing down on her like an invisible force. Betrayed by their own leaders, humanity now faced an even darker threat. The Arcturians. The same alien species who had helped them with the energy weapon were now demanding control over Earth, and it was clear they would stop at nothing to claim what they had been promised. The war they had hoped to win was now becoming a battle for survival, not just against the aliens, but against a powerful manipulative force within their own ranks. The communication screen flickered, displaying the looming Arcturian fleet approaching Earth's orbit. Hundreds of warships lined up, ready to descend upon the planet. The sight was overwhelming. Even after their victory with the weapon, the human fleet was still vastly outmatched. The Arcturians had ships that could wipe them out in an instant, and now they were demanding Earth's resources, its people, its very future. We're facing two enemies now, General Stroud said, his voice rough with frustration as he studied the display. The aliens who want us dead, and the ones who think they own us. Lena turned to him, her face hardening with determination. We can't let either one of them win. But how? Stroud asked, shaking his head. The Arcturians have far more resources than we do. They've been planning this for years. The weapon we just used, what if it's not enough? What if it's a trap? Lena's thoughts raced. The weapon had worked once, but could they rely on it again? The Arcturians weren't stupid. They would have prepared countermeasures. Humanity's hope now rested on their ability to outthink their enemies, to take bold risks. She glanced at the view screen, seeing the massive alien fleet slowly closing in on Earth. Time was running out. "We fight," she said, her voice firm. "We have to. We may not have the numbers, but we have something the Arcturians don't, the will to fight for our home. And we won't go down without a fight." Stroud's eyes narrowed. "You're right. But we'll need more than just the fleet. We'll need to unite every military force we have, every resource, and rally the people of Earth. This is a fight for our freedom, for our future." Lena nodded. She could already feel the rallying cry building in her chest. Humanity wasn't just going to fight for survival anymore. They were going to fight for their right to exist, to remain free. "We'll make a stand," she said, her voice growing stronger. "The Arcturians want Earth's resources. They can have them. But only after they go through us." As she spoke, the first wave of Arcturian ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their massive forms blotting out the stars as they approached Earth's atmosphere. They were here. The final battle was about to begin. In the command center, Lena and her crew sprang into action. The fleet was mobilizing. The battle plans were already in place. Their best fighters were taking position, and every ship was preparing to launch everything they had. Humanity had one chance to turn the tide. It was now or never. Lena turned to Stroud. "Get our best pilots on the front lines. I want the fleet fully operational, and every ship ready to deploy the energy weapon at the first opportunity. If we don't take down their command ship, this battle is over before it even begins." Stroud gave a sharp nod. "Understood. We'll move fast. If we can take them by surprise, we might have a shot." As the last preparations were being made, Lena stepped out onto the observation deck. She looked down at the planet below. Earth, her home. So much was at stake. Humanity had always faced challenges, but none like this. This wasn't just about winning a war. This was about ensuring their future, their identity as a species. They could never allow the Arcturians to take Earth, not after everything humanity had fought for. The sun was rising on a new day, but it was a day that would be filled with fire, destruction, and perhaps hope. A new chapter in human history was about to be written, and no one could predict how it would end. "We're not backing down," Lena whispered to herself. "Not now. Not ever." With those words, she turned back to face the command center. The first wave of Arcturian ships was closing in. The countdown to the final confrontation had begun. The battle for survival. The Arcturian fleet loomed large in the distance, a formidable wall of power and advanced technology. Humanity's fleet was a fraction of their size, and Lena knew that one misstep could mean the end of everything they had fought for. The time for hesitation was over. Earth's survival depended on the coming battle, and there was no turning back now. Inside the command ship, the tension was palpable. The crew was focused, each person in their place, preparing for the war of their lives. Lena stood in front of the tactical console, watching as the ships moved into formation. A few moments ago, she had been filled with doubt, wondering if humanity's weapon, the one that had won them the first victory, would be enough. But now, the weight of responsibility burned in her chest. She wasn't just fighting for Earth anymore. She was fighting for the very idea that humanity could stand up to any threat, no matter how overwhelming. "All ships, prepare for battle." Lena's voice rang out across the comms, steady and clear. "Focus on their command ship. If we take it down, we cripple their entire fleet." General Stroud's voice crackled over the radio. "We've received word from the pilots. They're ready to launch. Our fighter squadrons are standing by." Lena nodded, her mind already racing through the countless variables of the upcoming battle. The Arcturians were fast, and their ships were equipped with energy shields that would be nearly impossible to breach without the proper firepower. But she had one advantage, the energy weapon. If they could hit the Arcturian flagship with it, there was a chance they could break through their defenses. "We can do this," Lena muttered to herself, her resolve hardening. "We must." The first wave of human fighters shot out of the hangar bays, darting toward the incoming enemy fleet. The battle had begun. Lena watched the screen as the fighter squadrons danced around the enemy ships, launching laser blasts and dodging return fire. The sky above Earth was a chaotic battlefield, lit by the streaks of lasers and explosions. But even as the human forces fought valiantly, the Arcturian ships retaliated with brutal precision. One by one, human fighters were torn apart, their ships exploding in flashes of light. It was clear the Arcturians weren't here to negotiate. They had come to conquer. "Captain, their shields are stronger than we anticipated," Stroud reported, his voice tinged with frustration. "We need to hit them harder." Lena's mind raced. The energy weapon had worked once, but she needed a clear shot at the Arcturian command ship. She couldn't risk wasting their last opportunity. But even as she formulated her plan, the enemy fleet was closing in. Then something unexpected happened. As the Arcturians launched their next wave of attacks, the human fleet suddenly executed a series of sharp maneuvers. It wasn't just a standard strategy. It was a calculated, desperate attempt to outsmart the aliens. The human pilots, using the tactics Lena had implemented earlier, began to weave through the alien ships, dodging their fire and drawing the attention of the enemy away from the larger human vessels. Lena's eyes widened. The human fighters weren't just fighting. They were buying time. Time for what? "Captain." Stroud's voice broke through her thoughts. "We've got the shot. The command ship is exposed. It's now or never." "Take it," Lena ordered without hesitation. "Give them everything we've got." With a sudden flash, the energy weapon fired from the heart of the human fleet. The blinding beam of light hurtled through space, a force of unimaginable power. The moment it struck the Arcturian flagship, the shockwave of energy sent ripples through the surrounding ships, and for a split second, everything went silent. Then, the explosion came. The Arcturian flagship erupted into flames. Its once impenetrable shields shattered in a blinding burst. The shockwave sent several of the surrounding ships tumbling through space, disoriented and damaged. The human fleet had done the impossible. They had crippled the heart of the Arcturian force. But the victory was short-lived. As the flagship disintegrated, the remaining Arcturian ships began to retaliate with even more intensity. They had not been defeated, not yet. Their counterattack was swift and merciless, and soon the human fleet found themselves fighting for every inch of space. "Keep pushing forward," Lena shouted into the comms. "We've got them on the ropes. Don't give up now." The human fighters, despite their heavy losses, pressed on, their resolve stronger than ever. The energy weapon had bought them a precious few moments, but the battle was far from over. Human pilots fought with everything they had. Every strategy, every trick they could think of, was thrown at the Arcturians. And still, the enemy pushed back. "We're running low on fuel," one of the pilots shouted over the comms. "We can't keep this up much longer." Lena's heart clenched. The human fleet was on the brink of exhaustion, their resources dwindling, their fighters scattered and damaged. But there was no turning back. Earth had been pushed to its breaking point. The human forces could only fight for so long, but they weren't giving up. Not yet. The battle raged on, humanity's forces giving everything they had, determined to defend their planet at all costs. And in that moment, Captain Lena knew that this battle wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving to the galaxy that humanity could stand against the darkness, that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they would never bow down. But victory wasn't guaranteed. Not yet. A hopeful turnaround. The battle raged on, but the once optimistic glow from their initial victory quickly faded into a harsh reality. Humanity's fleet was battered and broken, its fighters running low on fuel, and their remaining ships were barely holding together. The Arcturians had retaliated with savage force, and the space around Earth was becoming a graveyard for both human and alien ships. Captain Lena could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her, but she knew there was no room for despair. Humanity's future depended on their ability to fight, to endure, and to find a way through the impossible. The human fleet had launched everything they had, yet the Arcturian fleet, though injured, still had overwhelming numbers. The battle seemed unwinnable. The energy weapon, which had given them hope, had done its job for a while. But now the aliens had adapted. Their shields were reinforced, their counterattacks more calculated. The human fleet, though resolute, was slowly being picked apart. "Captain, we're losing momentum." General Stroud's voice crackled over the comms. "Our fighters are out of ammunition, and our ships are running low on power. We're stretched too thin." Lena's heart sank as she watched the scene unfolding before her. Every explosion, every loss, weighed heavily on her. But then, just as the situation seemed hopeless, the communications officer's voice rang out, a note of excitement breaking through the grim atmosphere. "Captain, we've just received an unexpected transmission. It's from the human scientists on Earth. They've activated the secondary power grid, and they've made a breakthrough with the energy weapon." Lena's eyes widened. "What do you mean, breakthrough?" The officer replied quickly. "They've found a way to amplify the weapon's output, increase its range, and target the Arcturian ship's weak points. They've also upgraded the targeting system. It's ready to go live now." Lena's breath caught in her chest. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the key to turning the tide. Humanity had been given a second chance. She had to make it count. "Activate it," she ordered without hesitation. "Tell the fleet we're launching the final assault. We can win this, but it's now or never." The officers moved quickly, passing orders to the fleet. The energy weapon, upgraded and recalibrated, hummed to life, its power coursing through the human ships. The previously weak, scattered strikes were now focused into a concentrated beam of unimaginable force, aimed directly at the heart of the remaining Arcturian fleet. Lena watched as the massive human warships lined up for the final strike. "All ships on my command, target the Arcturian flagships," she said, her voice unwavering. "This is the moment we make them regret ever underestimating us. Give everything we've got." With a final, unified command, the energy weapon discharged once more, this time with even greater force. The beam cut through the vacuum of space, brighter and stronger than before. The Arcturian fleet, still reeling from the earlier attack, could do little as the focused beam slammed into the center of their formation. The impact was catastrophic. The Arcturian flagship, already weakened from earlier hits, disintegrated in an instant, its shields no match for the concentrated energy. The explosion sent shockwaves rippling through the rest of their fleet. Several other Arcturian ships followed, disintegrating in fiery bursts. The human fleet's attacks had hit their mark, crippling the heart of the alien force. But even in their retreat, the Arcturians were not going to go quietly. The remaining ships retaliated, launching everything they had. But the damage was done. The balance of power had shifted. The Arcturians, their command structure in ruins, were scrambling to regroup, their remaining ships in disarray. "We've got them," Stroud shouted from his post. "They're in full retreat. We've broken their formation." Lena allowed herself a brief moment of relief, though she knew the battle was not over. The Arcturians had been wounded, but they were not defeated yet. There would be no room for complacency. "Don't let up," she ordered firmly. "We press the attack. We finish this now." Human fighters, now reinvigorated with new purpose, dove back into the fray. Their fighters targeted the retreating Arcturian ships, pushing them further back into space. One by one, the remaining alien vessels were picked off, their resistance crumbling under the weight of humanity's renewed strength. In the distance, the final Arcturian ships began to turn away, their retreat now a full-fledged withdrawal. The battle was far from easy, and the cost had been high, but humanity had emerged victorious. As the last alien ship disappeared into the darkness of space, Captain Lena exhaled deeply, a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration filling her. She looked out at the space around her, silent now, save for the distant echoes of battle. Earth had survived, but they had paid a heavy price. The remnants of the human fleet floated like ghosts in the void, their once proud ships now scared and battered. "We did it," Stroud said quietly, standing next to her. Lena nodded, her eyes scanning the damage to their own ships. "Yes, we did. But we've only just begun. This victory, this fight, is the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. We've shown the galaxy what we're capable of." She took one final glance at Earth, visible in the distance, the blue planet now safe. For now. The cost had been high, but the message was clear. Humanity would never back down. The final stand. The battle was over, but the aftermath was far from peaceful. The human fleet, battered but triumphant, floated in the void above Earth, surveying the damage. Around them, the remains of the Arcturian fleet drifted, their ships shattered and broken, their retreat complete. The silence that had settled over the battlefield was almost deafening. The victory was theirs, but it had come at a terrible cost. Captain Lena stood on the bridge of the command ship, staring out at the expanse of space. Her eyes were tired, her mind still processing the sheer scale of what they had just achieved. They had won. The Arcturians were defeated, their invasion thwarted. But the war had taken its toll. The human fleet was in tatters, with many ships heavily damaged and many lives lost. And Earth, despite its safety, had been left scarred by the brutal conflict. "Captain," General Straub's voice broke her reverie. "We've confirmed that the last of the Arcturian ships have retreated. Their fleet is no longer a threat. The people of Earth are safe. For now." Lena nodded, though she knew their work was far from over. "We've won this battle. But there's still more to do. We need to rebuild, reorganize, and we need to prepare for whatever comes next." The war with the Arcturians might be over, but it had opened up a new chapter in human history. Their victory, though hard-won, had proven that humanity was capable of standing up to the most powerful forces in the galaxy. But what would that mean for the future? The Arcturians had underestimated humanity's resolve, but they wouldn't be the last to challenge them. The galaxy was vast, and now humanity had made its mark. The question remained, what would they do with that power? "We've proven we can fight," Lena said, her voice firm. "Now, we need to make sure we never find ourselves in this position again. We need allies, and we need to be ready for anything. This victory, it's just the beginning." Stroud agreed. "The universe is watching us. We've sent a message, and we have a chance to shape the future, to lead rather than follow." Lena looked out at the stars again, feeling the weight of the decision she had just made. There had been times when she wasn't sure they would survive. But now, as Earth's protector, she knew that humanity had more than just a fighting chance. They had the will to survive, to overcome, and to thrive. "We've shown the universe that humanity won't back down," Lena said softly, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "And we'll keep fighting, not just for our survival, but for our place in the galaxy." Her words were filled with a new sense of purpose, a sense of hope for the future. The battle for Earth was over, but the journey for humanity had just begun. With the Arcturians defeated and the galaxy watching, humanity was ready to chart its own path forward. As the last remnants of the Arcturian fleet disappeared into the depths of space, Lena knew that this was just the beginning. The victory was theirs, but the real challenge was to build a future where humanity could thrive, freed from the shadow of those who would try to control them. Humanity had shown the universe what they were capable of. And now, they would rise, they would fight, and they would conquer, because they were human, and nothing could stand in their way.